On 8/19, and it's good to have you back. With school starting next week, it's important to make sure your kids' vaccinations are up to date. And to help further explain everything that you need to know about taking care of this is Dr. Eugene Sun with Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Mexico. Very nice to have you here this morning.
Good morning. Thank
and this
you.
is an important topic to sort of sort out, when you're getting back. You're thinking school supplies, you're thinking about kids' schedules, but maybe this is back of mind and really needs to be at the front of the mind.
Right.
So what do we need to know? Why children need to get vaccinated, and what the schedule looks like? What do you need to remember going into the school year?
So the reason I think it's important for kids to get vaccinated is it's a good way to protect them. So vaccinations are very safe, they're very effective, they've really diminished disease over the past several decades. If you think about, you buckle your kids up in a car seat, you make them wear a bike helmet so that if they're in an accident, they're protected. Vaccinations prevent the accident from happening in the first place.
That makes sense. There's a lot of different things to remember when it comes to a schedule, and I see you have a kind of a visual aid here that kind of explains how many and how often you have to get them. We're going through this right now with my very young child. He was just born about 5 months ago. But what do you need to remember when it comes to scheduling?
Well, I think the first thing to remember is it can be very confusing, so you can always ask your doctor. You don't have to memorize this.
Sure.
Vaccinations start from birth with hepatitis B, and then the first 18 months there's a series of vaccinations that are needed. Again, parents don't have to memorize this.
Now, we're talking about Tdap during the break. That's something that has to be kind of boosted every now and then, right?
Tdap should be boosted.
Yeah.
There's 2 or 3 during childhood, and then even as adults, that should be given once every 10 years or so.
And what about flu vaccine? There's HPV as well that's recommended but not required, right? I mean, there's a lot of different ones that you have to look into.
Yeah, flu vaccine is something that should be received every year, pretty much from 6 months of age on, and it protects against influenza.
So the major ailments and diseases the vaccines are protecting us from, what are they? This is a litany of them,
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
I couldn't go through them all, but I think some things that I think are important to know about are, for example, polio virus. I don't think I've seen a case of polio in the last 40 years, and I think most people out there have not seen it, but it's important to know polio can be crippling and can be fatal. And without that vaccination, your child could be at risk at getting that, because polio is out there in the world, not as much in the United States, but outside the United States. And with global travel, it doesn't take one flight to potentially get exposed. So
it's interesting. There's a big debate, or there has been this year, over this, and now California has required kids to come in that are coming into school to have them. In New Mexico, there are still exemptions allowed. Is there a risk there? I mean, do you feel like for those that are vaccinated, there's a risk from unvaccinated kids, or is it those among the crowd that isn't vaccinated that's the most risk?
See, I think that's the problem. If the person has not been vaccinated for the disease, they are at risk for contracting the disease. So let's take measles, the big outbreak last year. Measles, I don't think a lot of people understand, can be fatal. It can cause serious neurological complications, and it's those people who have not been vaccinated. For example, very young children who are less than 1 year do not get the measles vaccination. So they are at risk if they're exposed to somebody who comes down with measles. So it's really about protecting people who are not able to take the immunization.
Lots to consider there. There are specific times, as we mentioned earlier, for certain vaccines. Where can people get a schedule as we sort of wrap this up?
So cdc.gov/vaccines, you can get the schedule.
Sounds
and the
good.
Schedule for older kids as well.
All right, and for a recap of everything Dr. Sun's talked about, you can get that online, KRQE.com, of course, with Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Mexico. So direct questions to you, if they have any?
Absolutely,
Too?
sure.
Good way to find you. All right, Doctor, thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. And happy early school, getting prepared for that here in the coming days. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.